Good morning, and welcome to Morning Otaku Coffee. This is a short weekly show where we chat about anime, manga, other otaku media, and the ideas behind them. I'm Steve Smith, and today's main topic, something that doesn't nearly get talked about enough, the generations that came before otaku culture. But first, let's talk about what we've been watching this week. This week, I've been watching Hanada Shoninchi. It's an early 2000s show that is about a kid who sees ghosts and helps solve their problems to get into the afterlife. It's a pretty raunchy comedy, but more kid-friendly poop joke raunchy. It's a show that's very popular among male or any-list people with thousands of shows listed. You'll commonly see it as one of their favorites. In that I can see the appeal of the show, but for me, it's not really clicking. I'm not saying it's a bad show, but for me, it's something I feel like I'm gonna give like a 6.5 when I finish. I think it just lays too hard on fart and poop joke comedy, which really distracts me from the underlying tales about redemption, fixing problems of people's past. I'm gonna finish it. Like I said, I think there's plenty of people who do like it, and it is highly rated among those high level circles. But for me, I'm probably gonna end up giving it like a 6.5. For current airing things, I'm not really sure where my anime of the season is gonna land. There's a lot of really good stuff this season, like World is Dancing, or a Grow Up Show, The New Ghost in the Shell, Sayonara Lara, Sparks of Tomorrow, Witch of Mongolia. Like any of those could end up being my anime of the season. I'm really enjoying them, giving it a very interesting outlook for the season because usually there's one or two outliers that are like, okay, it's a competition between these two, usually just one show that you know by the end is going to be the end of the season, not really a race. But this one, I really can't tell. Like, there's several shows that I might be giving eights, or maybe even a nine too. It's a crazy good time for anime. For manga, I started reading World Wide Web Miko. It's essentially a story about the creation of the internet in an alternate timeline where girls use spiritual power to create it during the Meiji era. It's very interesting how it kind of fast tracks the growth and evolution of the internet and the perception of it through these girls over happening over a couple of months of going from very early like DOS style websites to message boards to image boards to essentially creating Twitter. It's a very cute story so far. I'm really interested to see where it's going, even though I kind of not digging the current arc. I feel like it's kind of not sure where it wants to go with this premise. With all these girls kind of trying to create a UN peace thing during the Meiji era. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep following it. I think it's pretty good so far. I recommend it. The other manga I've been catching up on is Kuromizawa's Folly. It's about a manga artist who was famous during the late 50s and 60s, but has fallen off and is using a young protege that he found in 1971 to ghostwrite for him a manga. It's very interesting, the relationship between the two main characters, Kuromizawa and Hata, and how each of them are kind of symbiotically living like this. How Hata is kind of like, he'll never make it, but he just wants his story out there. And Kuromizawa has his reasons, which you later find out, more than just wanting another hit manga under his name. What I really enjoy about Kuromizawa's Folly is more of the time period and how it uses that. Like I said, it takes place in 1971, which is a very interesting time in manga history, as a lot of things are changing. Like it goes over the rising star of Go Nagai. It brings up Tezuka and his involvement during the, like 40s and 50s, which really influences people that are now drawing manga. It also covers the negative effects, such as the aftermath of World War II, the anti-manga movements of the 1950s, also the PTA movements of the late 60s and 70s, trying to censor artists and make manga more safe and kid friendly. If you're not very familiar with these topics, it's not like it's a hard read to get through going over these heavy topics. It just uses this very nicely and might introduce you to new things you did not know about those time periods or manga history in general. I do really like Kuromizawa's Folly, probably one of my favorite ongoing mangas right now. And I would like to use this as a segue to get into our main topic, the pre-otaku generations. There's three real generations that you can trace otaku culture before the otaku generation that started in the 1960 to 75 birth years. You have first the manga generation, which grew up in the 1930s and 1945. Saw the birth of the mass media manga boom. Very much they are defined by manga and the real star of the rental bookshop market, which a lot of them would spend all day just in the shops reading manga. You also have people within that generation, such as Tezuka, who spent all his time drawing manga himself as a kid. And in that, would also try to get as much manga as he could on hand, which was very important during the World War II era, which this generation takes part in, where the kids of that era would share manga they had stored because there was nothing new being made, and they would share it among themselves, keeping the idea of manga still alive during the war, even though the paper shortage was stopping any manga production from really happening. The generation that came after them is usually referred as the Tezuka generation, with birth years from 1945 to 1960. Calling the Tezuka generation sounds like it's a little glorifying Tezuka too much, but when you look at it, Tezuka's influence was too much, as essentially everything from that era, essentially the creators from that era either split into two groups where making a response to Tezuka's work or trying to emulate his work and their influences. Tezuka wrote the most influential manga during their generation, which would have been New Treasure Island in 1947. It essentially transformed the medium. Everything before it and after is different. It's a little glorifying Tezuka, but his influence cannot be overstated, really. It's like imagining the Western animation market without Disney. Like, his influence is just too much. Lastly, you have the Proto-Otaku generation, or sometimes referred to as the Maniac generation. People born from 1955 to 1965. They're more interested in sci-fi. They're also very heavily influenced by the protests that were going on in Japan at the time, such as the Ampo protest or the school protests that were going on. If we weave the thread among those generations to the otaku generation, we can see otaku starts more with being fans of manga, then into Tezuka, then into sci-fi, which then leads into the otaku generation taking that love of sci-fi into the next level, which creates great anime works. Those anime works then make otaku culture surrounded by anime as the main focus. So we went from manga to Tezuka to sci-fi to anime. Another fun through line in this is Tezuka starts in the manga generation. He influences makes the next generation about him, but at the same time, he is very interested in animation, so he wants anime to be a focus. He essentially creates the anime industry because he had liked manga, was able to do it, which eventually makes otaku culture around anime, which, kind of funny enough, the switch from sci-fi to anime being the main focus happens around the time he dies. Weird coincidence. None of this knowledge is really needed to understand anime and manga in the current form or otaku culture in general in modern times, but it is a helpful thing to know in the back pocket, as everything is built upon itself. Like I said, you don't get to anime without Tezuka, and you don't get from Tezuka from the original manga boom. And if you don't have the sci-fi boom, you don't get anime. Everything is built upon itself. It's all these layered interactions that happen through the years that we get to the current form. Likewise, if we didn't have idols, we probably wouldn't have gone VTubers. If we didn't have visual novels, we wouldn't have gotten gotchas. Everything is constantly evolving. Otaku culture is always moving in a new direction. It might not be very visible in the here and now, like what trends will happen and where it is going. Like the trend of isekai is essentially dying down. For a while in the late 2010s, it was in early 2020s, it was kind of a heavy focus in the industry, but that has kind of died down, and the industry is trying to find where the next big genre shift is going. Is it going to Yuri? Are we moving back to more of a moe thing from the late 2000s? We can't really know until things settle down in the future. Even if you're in it, there's constantly things going back and forth. There's small trends that are growing, like VTubers being such a big thing in otaku sphere in like 2018 when Kizuna or like Sora was starting. These things grow real fast, quickly when they grasp otaku culture and they start to shift. But those are just some of my thoughts. If you have any thoughts about these pre-otaku generations, leave them down in the comments. And if you would also let me to do a more in-depth video instead of just talking off the top of my head, let me know. I would consider it. Now for this week's recommendation, I'm going to go with Astro Boy 1980. It's a very well-produced adaptation, which will give you a good taste of Tezuka and how his work influenced others. I think it's probably a good starting point for his works. If you go in from the 1960s version, especially if you're not used to works from that era, you're not going to enjoy it very much, probably. The 2000s adaptation is probably also good. I just haven't seen that version of it. So please check it out if you haven't. Thank you for listening to Morning Otaku Coffee. If you enjoyed, please give a like and a sub on YouTube, and I hope you enjoy your day.